Hi there, it's me again. I'm Sarah Kemp, narrative architect and founder of SJK Labs. I help expert-led businesses become legible, not just visible, to humans, markets, and machines in the AI era. Right now, before a buyer reaches your website or they ever get on a call with you or your team, they are asking AI what you do, who you're for, and whether you're any good. And whatever it says back, that's the story they walk into the room with, or not in some cases. But you didn't write it, you can't correct it in real time, and most of you have no idea what it's saying. So we tested it. We took 50 regulated and capital-intensive businesses across fintech, payments, insurance, wealth, crypto, across 8 sectors. And we asked 4 AI systems the 6 questions a buyer actually asks. Stripe, a company every one of you could describe in a sentence or at least know of, scored a perfect 30 out of 30 in Claude and a 19 on Gemini. It's the same day, it's the same company. Coinbase scored a 6 out of 30 in Gemini and a 27 in Perplexity. That's a 21-point spread just on the same business. Now, this is not a diagnostic. It's not a verdict on those companies because a low score doesn't mean the business is weak. It just means the machine couldn't reconstruct what makes it commercially distinct, which, as I'm about to show you, is a different and far more dangerous problem from a revenue perspective. Because if it's happening to Stripe and Coinbase, it's probably happening to you. For 20 years, everyone we wrote for was a human. A buyer, a journalist, an analyst, an investor. They're different rooms, but they're all human. And every comms strategy ever built rests on that one assumption. But now that assumption is gone, and the numbers just really aren't subtle. Gartner research states that 67% of B2B buyers now prefer a rep-free buying experience, and 45% are already using AI somewhere in the process. G2 said 51% of buyers now start with AI more than they start with Google, and Forbes put it bluntly, 60% of purchases now end with no click to a website at all. So the buyer got their answer, formed their view, and they moved on. And you were never in the room. And this isn't just buyers Googling differently. The infrastructure for machine-led commerce is not theoretical. BlackRock is running production agents across $11 trillion of assets on Aladdin, and agentic payment rails are processing real transactions today. What that means is when an agent decides whether to transact with you, it's using the same reasoning we just audited. I want you to hold on to the fact that the first reader of your company is now a machine, and that machine is reading on behalf of every human and every other machine downstream. And if the machine can't explain you, the chain just won't start. So I want to show you how this worked because the rigor is the point of this, right? So we got 50 companies. We had 4 platforms, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and Perplexity, all web search enabled, tested under normal conditions. We have 6 questions. They were asked cold in the same order every time. What does this company do? Who is it for? What problem does it solve? What makes it different? Is it credible? And who are the alternatives? And we scored every answer 1 to 5 across 6 dimensions: clarity, accuracy, differentiation, customer pain point, proof, and category fit. And that's a maximum of 30 points per platform, which is 120 overall. It's the same framework, all 50 companies, in one day. Those dimensions are from something we developed called the scriptwriter test. What it does is it looks at who's the protagonist, what are the stakes, and what is the proof? And what category are we even in? Is the scriptwriter's craft pointed at a machine? And I guess the moment you score a company that way, it's really clear to see the patterns that fall from the data in terms of the parts of the story that broke were not the parts that you might expect. And this is just one of the reasons it's so important to be leading with a journalist-backed storytelling approach for brands and humans in the AI era. So let's start with the headline. Averaged across all 50 companies. Claude came top on 21.6 out of 30, ChatGPT 19.5, Perplexity 18.7, and Gemini last on 15.6. 10 companies scored a perfect 30 out of 30 on Claude. The number that scored a perfect 30 on Gemini, 0. The best performing model still averaged 21 out of 30. Now, that's a C grade for the platform that won. Not one platform aced this. And it's not the platform's fault, right? The averages hide in the real story, which is which dimensions broke. The dimensions that scored highest was proof and credibility, because that's retrievable stuff. So it's things like funding rounds, regulatory status, awards, customer logos. It's public, it's structured, and machines are really good at retrieving it. But the dimensions that collapsed were customer pain point, differentiation, and category fit. The machine knows the facts, but what it loses is why anyone should care. This is general narrative 101, right? You want to put your customer as the hero, but a lot of brands still aren't. And category fit was the single most common failure in the entire study. In 32 of the 50 companies, at least one platform put the business in the wrong or incomplete competitive frame. 30 of 50 had a clear narrative or differentiation problem, and only 7 of the 50, scored 25 or more out of 30 across all 4 platforms. So the pattern across all 50 is really simple. It's that AI can retrieve your facts, but it can't reconstruct your meaning. And that is the part that requires that narrative architecture. So it's the pain point, differentiation, competitive context, because they are all the things that are collapsing first. And think about it. If you go to AI and you don't see those things, are you really going to be having a follow-up call with the sales team? I'm going to show you what losing your meaning looks like. So it landed in a handful of ways, and I've got the numbers on each that I'm going to show you. The wrong company entirely. This is a board level one, right? 23 of the 50 companies hit a name collision. The AI answered for a different business entirely with the same name. Zepto here is the cleanest case. So you asked the models about Zepto, and all 4 described the Indian quick commerce unicorn. Not one identified the Australian account-to-account payments business that we were looking at. It scored a 6 across all 4 platforms, which was the lowest of the study. And again, caveating here, it's not because the business is weak. It just means that it's not structured in the way for machines to find it and understand how it's legible. It's a real diagnostic of the machine. So the second one was a generic name. Call yourself Shift or Wonderful, and the machine defaults to the dictionary. Across 24 responses for Shift, not a single platform identified the actual business. It returned web browsers, insurance AI, used cars, and keyboard keys. This is proof that the machine can't use. 17 of 50 had strong proof on their own site, but it never made it into an AI answer because it was buried in carousels, PDFs, JavaScript-heavy pages, and 11 of 50 had a crawlability problem. The AI couldn't read their site at all. So it built the answer, and it will build the answer, from third-party fragments and complaints. And really, what ties it all together is that the same company can be legible in one AI and invisible in another. 26 of 50 had a double-digit scoring gap between platforms. 3 had a gap of 20 points or more. Thread scored a 30 in Claude and a 6 in Gemini, a 24-point spread on one business. So what does it show us? It shows that your buyers just aren't using the same models. I'm fine. Last time we checked on ChatGPT, it's not really the answer. We don't know what behaviors are going on with specific people, but we do know that different people are using different platforms. Now, this is the part that I want you to hear, because the market is about to sell you the wrong fit. I can see it happening in front of my eyes. The reflex right now is GEO, Generative Engine Optimization. So make yourself crawlable, add the structured data, get cited in the right sources. And that work is real. 11 of our 50 companies had a genuine crawlability problem. And if a machine can't read your site, then it answers from whatever else it can find. So that is important. It really is important, genuinely. But go back to the data. The dimension that scored the highest was proof and credibility, the most retrievable, most GEOable thing in the whole study. The dimensions that collapsed were pain point, differentiation, and category fit. Those are the story dimensions. 32 of 50 in the wrong competitive frame, 30 of 50 with a narrative problem. You can't just structure your data. It's not solving a narrative problem. If your positioning was generic before the machine reads it, GEO can't fix that. It just makes a generic message more findable, and you optimize your way into being efficiently misunderstood at scale across 4 platforms. GEO makes sure the machine can find your words, but narrative architecture decides whether those words still mean anything once the machine compresses them. One is retrieval, The other is legibility, meaning, and the data is unambiguous about which one is breaking. I fundamentally believe that this is not a search problem that you should just solve with more SEO. It's not a content problem you can solve with more output. It's a narrative architecture problem, creating the ecosystem. And that's a different discipline. It's a new discipline. So I can hear you screaming at your screen. What do I do about this? Don't just write more content. That's always the instinct, and it's wrong. The job is to really make your company easier to explain accurately. So there's 4 layers working together. The first is positioning, the narrative architecture underneath everything. So your story has to be passable, not just persuasive. So if a human needs your tone of voice and your deck to get it, a machine has no chance. But this is the layer that everyone skips. And really, the data says it's the first one to fail. Number 2 is authority. The same story across press, analysts, partners, and structured data. This is the single biggest lever for closing those platform gaps. You can't be telling one story over here and one story over there that don't match. And also there's an operational point to this as well. If you're saying something externally and it doesn't match what's happening operationally internally, and people are going to see the reviews at the review sites, that's not going to look so good. That is going to really harm your reputation. This is what separates the 7 companies that scored 25 plus everywhere from the 26 that swung wildly between platforms. Number 3, technical visibility. So having crawlable pages, accessible proof. If AI can't read it, then AI can't repeat it. That is your 11 out of 50 problem. And number 4, the proof architecture. Your evidence has to travel. So out of that carousel, out of the PDF, and into the answer. So that's your 17 out of 50 problem. And proof that can't be retrieved just may as well not exist from a machine perspective. And make sure you keep the protagonist straight through all 4 of them. Your buyer is the hero of your story. You're not. Sorry. The buyer is the one trying to make a good decision, but they have bad information. And you are the guide. The machine is currently writing them a worse script than the one you'd write yourself. And these 4 layers are really how you start to take back control and improve not just your visibility, but your legibility. So I'm going to leave you with the line this whole report comes down to. And it's the way AI describes your business is your narrative now. It's whether you wrote it or not. But remember the numbers. The best model averaged 21 out of 30. 32 of 50 companies misframed. 23 returned as the wrong company entirely. Every day, you don't shape it, build that narrative architecture, the machine's going to keep filling the gaps, it will tell your old story, and it will hand your buyers the wrong company or strip out the one thing that you want them to know. I believe that the window to close this is rapidly closing, as rapidly as AI is expanding and evolving. So one thing I will leave you on is right now, the machine is currently deciding who gets chosen. Architect it yourself in the right way and make sure you're the first.